The American Revolution, a bloody front in a vast global war. When Americans think of world wars, their minds conjure up haunting images of the 20th century, the blood-soaked trenches of the Somme in 1916, where millions fell in agony, the relentless German Blitz raining death upon London during the chilling autumn nights of 1940, or the monstrous mushroom cloud rising over Hiroshima in August 1945, a grim symbol of annihilation. Yet a bold new exhibition at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C., dares to shatter this familiar lens, pulling viewers back to the 18th century to uncover a different kind of world war, one long romanticized as a quaint skirmish between a scrappy band of rebel colonists and the mighty red-coated army of a distant king. Titled The American Revolution, A World War, this exhibition doesn't merely recount the well-worn tale of American grit and valor. Instead, it unveils a far grander, more intricate saga. The fight for independence by the 13 colonies was no isolated uprising, but a ferocious battlefront in a sprawling global conflict. Britain, France, Spain, the Dutch Republic, and far-flung territories like Jamaica, Gibraltar, and even India were all swept into a whirlwind of imperial ambition, economic power, and strategic gambits. Had it not escalated into that broader struggle, with allies joining the fray, the outcome might well have been different, declares David K. Allison, the project director, curator of the exhibition, and co-author of an upcoming book on the subject. As the war grew larger, drawing in America's allies and igniting conflicts worldwide, Britain was forced into pivotal strategic choices, ultimately abandoning the North American colonies to redirect its military might to other outposts like India. Roots in the 7 Years' War. The story begins with an earlier global clash. The 7 Years' War, 1756 to 1763, known in America as the French and Indian War. In that brutal contest, Britain solidified its dominance, while France and Spain suffered crushing losses of territory and influence. By the time the American Revolution erupted, other European powers, chiefly France and Spain, saw a golden opportunity to curb Britain, then the world's mightiest empire, boasting the most fearsome navy on the planet. We became a sideshow, Allison notes with a wry edge. To these powers, aiding the defiant rebels in North America wasn't about lofty ideals of liberty. It was a calculated move to undermine their shared nemesis, the British Empire. France and Spain, both staunch monarchies, with little love for democracy, nonetheless poured weapons, funds, and troops into the American cause. The Dutch Republic, a neutral but trade-hungry nation, joined the game, covertly supplying arms and goods to the colonies. The result? After years of struggling to hold on to its 13 rebellious colonies, Britain's leaders opted to cut their losses. In North America, shifting focus to secure and expand their grip on other colonial prizes, most notably India, a land ripe with the promise of vast wealth from spices and trade, not freedom but power and profit. In this global context, the American Revolution was less a crusade for liberty and more a brutal contest for economic dominance. Trade influence. France, Spain, and the Dutch Republic cared little for fostering a democratic nation in North America. For them, it was a chance to strike a crippling blow against Britain, their greatest rival, and carve out new markets and power for themselves. Should the American colonies win their independence, it would deal a devastating hit to British interests while opening up fresh trade opportunities in North America and beyond for those who backed the rebels. The exhibition draws its inspiration from a meticulous study of two newly restored French paintings depicting the decisive final battle at Yorktown, the clash that sealed the Revolution's fate, the Siege of Yorktown, and the Surrender of Yorktown, both crafted by French artist Louis-Nicolas van Blarenberg, offer a striking contrast to the iconic American portrayal in John Trumbull's 1820 painting, The Surrender of Lord Cornwallis, which hangs proudly in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. In Van Blarenberg's works, Americans are relegated to the margins, while the French emerge as the triumphant heroes dominating the scene. Trumbull, by contrast, places American generals like Benjamin Lincoln and George Washington front and center, with the French cast as mere supporting players. Yorktown, France's decisive role. Van Blarenberg's paintings, though not a literal snapshot of reality, reveal a truth often obscured by America's patriotic narratives. At Yorktown, the French Navy, led by Admiral François-Joseph Paul de Grasse, played a linchpin role by blockading British ships cutting off General Cornwallis's escape route from Virginia. Without this critical intervention alongside the steady flow of arms, funds, and troops from France, Spain, and the Dutch, the American rebels might have crumbled under the weight of years of grueling war, let alone emerged victorious. But the conflict didn't end in North America. Across the Atlantic, France and Spain hatched plans to invade Britain itself and reclaim Gibraltar. These ambitions faltered, prompting Britain to pivot toward India to safeguard and expand its empire. The final battle of this sprawling war, known in America as the Revolution, wasn't fought on Virginia's fields in 1781. It raged 2 years later at Cuddalore, India in 1783, a bloody showdown between Britain and France that determined the fate of colonial holdings in the subcontinent and closed the curtain on a global struggle sparked by unrest in North America. Peace and legacy. When the smoke cleared, Britain negotiated separate peace treaties with the United States, France, Spain, and the Dutch Republic. In 1783, Britain retained its supremacy at sea but relinquished the American colonies' independence. France regained some prestige, lost in the 7 Years' War. Spain secured its American territories and trade routes, while the Dutch Republic emerged weakened in both commerce and global clout. The Smithsonian exhibition brings this epic tale to life with interactive displays that let visitors dissect the intricate details of Van Blarenberge's paintings, treasured artifacts like an ornate French cannon used at Yorktown, a model of de Grasse's warship Ville de Paris, and a portrait of George Washington by Charles Wilson Peale, once hung in General Rochambeau's home, breathed vividness into a war that stretched far beyond America's shores. The Lafayette myth and forgotten truths. The exhibition also probes the public image of the Marquis de Lafayette, often hailed as a key European ally. Yet his actual role was far smaller than American lore suggests. Lafayette's prominence owes much to his 1824 victory tour of North America, where he was feted as a hero. Meanwhile, General Rochambeau, who truly led French forces at Yorktown, fades into the background. On display are mementos from Lafayette's visit, like commemorative plates and a quirky Lafayette Dickey, alongside relics from World War I, when American pilots in the Lafayette Brigade fought for France to honor his support for U.S. liberty. A new lens on history. John Adams wrote in 1784 that the history of the American Revolution was nearly the history of mankind for that era, encompassing not just America, but France, Spain, Holland, Britain, and neutral powers. Yet over the 19th century, American accounts narrowed this scope, crafting a myth of raw courage and self-reliance that foreshadowed notions of American exceptionalism. This exhibition serves as a stark reminder that the Revolution was no solo triumph, but the product of a tangled web of international interests. We're too short-sighted in how we view our national story, as if we alone shaped our destiny, Allison reflects. The truth is, this nation was forged from the colonies of other empires, amid encounters with native peoples, and through a world war whose outcome hinged on battles fought far afield. Without allies, the colonies would never have won their freedom. American history, stripped of its global context, risks leading us to false and perilous ideas about who we truly are. The American Revolution, a World War, curated by David K. Allison, opens June 26 and runs through July 9, 2019, at the National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. It's more than a historical journey. It's a call to re-examine the founding of America, a tale steeped in blood, calculation, and global consequence.